And we do want to bring in White House columnist for The Hill, Niall Stanage. Niall, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here, Natasha.
So, Niall, we saw Trump kicking off his 2024 campaign tour in New Hampshire and South Carolina, two major primary states. We just heard Joe talking about this, testing out new messages, testing out new attacks. What were those new messages and new attacks, and how did they play?
Well, I think a lot of the appeal of Trump is still going back to the same themes, but simply updating them. So, for example, crime. He purports to be much tougher on crime than the Democratic administration, much tougher on immigration. He talks about relying on oil rather than any new kind of energy. He was very mocking, for example, in the South Carolina speech about electric vehicles. But really, you do know what you're getting with Trump. Now, one of the interesting points that Joe reported earlier was this new idea that he's proposing where parents perhaps could elect directly the school principal or of course, kick them out of office. That's new. But in general, Trump is Trump. He's always going to be Trump, and he's trying to rally people to his standard once again.
What new issues is Trump facing this time around? And is there any evidence with this earliest, newest campaign stop that he has changed any of his tactics in response to those challenges?
I'm not sure that there's much evidence that he has changed anything, really. His challenges really stem from the midterm elections more than anything else, because the rather disappointing performance of his endorsees in those midterms really emboldened Republicans who believe that he is an electoral liability to the party. They believe that he is now a weight that drags the Republican Party down. Now, he is still a very strong contender in opinion polls, but he needs to get over the fact or around the fact that people in the Republican Party believe that he could doom them to another defeat. And of course, he's facing challenges primarily from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. None of these people have declared yet, but potential challenges from DeSantis, from Nikki Haley, from Mike Pence, from Mike Pompeo. So there are a whole lot of people who could challenge him for this nomination.
And the former president said today that he did not have much competition from Republican candidates in 2016, or rather Republican candidates going forward. He doesn't suspect to have much competition this year as well. Is polling congruent with that? Is that bearing out, or is Governor Ron DeSantis really going to be a contender?
DeSantis, if he gets in the race, will be a contender. And I think your question brings up a point that's always worth making. Yes, in national polls, Trump typically leads DeSantis by a significant margin. But what we see in the primary process over and over again in both major parties is that the early states make an enormous amount of difference. I'm old enough to have covered the 2008 campaign, Natasha, when Hillary Clinton on the Democratic side was way ahead of Barack Obama nationally. But Obama won Iowa, and the thing changed in an instant. So those early states will be really important. And if DeSantis gets in, he's absolutely a serious challenger.
And which other candidate other than Ron DeSantis do you think may give former President Trump a run for his money, and why?
Right now, DeSantis is a long way clear of all of the rest of the chasing field. Now, it's interesting that Trump is in South Carolina today because that state has two potential serious candidates. One, Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, who went on to become Trump's UN ambassador. But the other one who would be a very intriguing candidate if he got in the race is Senator Tim Scott. He's well liked across the party. He is seen by some as a great compromise choice between the so-called MAGA wing of the party and the somewhat more orthodox or traditional wing. So those are two candidates, in addition to Ron DeSantis, who could, if the winds are at their back, really make a strong run.
All right, Niall Stanage, appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.